Hey there friends, how's it going? David Potts with Song Notes here, and we have a lesson today that's inspired by Doc Watson. Now he's someone who lots of y'all have requested. Jason, you've been beating the Doc Watson drum for quite a while over in the forum. I appreciate that. And Steve, most recently you joined, became a member on my site. It seems like the lessons are helpful for you, and you turned me on to this song, Deep River Blues. Now here's what it sounds like when Doc Watson plays it. So I can't play it just like he does just yet. Now I've watched tons of tutorials for this song that are on YouTube. I'll put those all on my Song Notes website if you want them. And in sort of my own style, as I like to do, I'm going to show you a getting started guide with this song where I will look at those incredibly difficult chord voicings he's using. I'm going to show you some simplified ways to play them that use 3 strings each, and even a super simple version, which is 2 fingers. Right? That lets you get through the progression in a fun way where you're just using your regular E, A7, and B7, and then you can sort of have fun and get comfortable, get confident with the overall lay of the land of this song. I'll show you 3 different arrangements, and with those, you'll be off and running if you want to learn Doc Watson's full version. So get my print-friendly guide. It's over on my website. It's going to have the chord progressions, the sort of chord, tabs and charts and everything written up with finger positions, and then the 3 different arrangements I've put together of this sort of training wheels version. You're going to be in really good shape after this one, and I have some zoomed in slow playthroughs available as well. So as usual, check out my lesson page for all the notes tabs and other suggested videos from lessons I've made and other folks on YouTube that are going to be related to the topics I teach. It's all on my website, songnotes.net. Thanks to all of you who are supporting me with membership. I hope you find the lessons helpful. And without further ado, let's get into this one and learn how to get started with Deep River Blues. All right, y'all, so really quick, I just want to talk about the structure of what I'm going to teach. As far as the chord progression I'm going to be using, that's what's shown on the right here. Now, Doc Watson's version is shown over here. His version has 2 different parts. They're a little bit different in the second line. But the important thing here is that what I'm going to teach you uses the same chords that he uses, okay? And I'm going to move through the chords in the same order. So with what I teach you, it will effectively set you up to learn his exact version. But I just want to make sure it's clear that what I'm teaching you is using a slightly modified progression as far as how long you stay on each chord and what the tempo is. Again, it's for the sake of explanation and making this a bit easier to get started with, right? But learn what I show you here. I'm going to show you 3 different versions of my tutorial sort of exercise, and then that will build you up to be able to jump into Doc Watson's version, okay? Now this is a really important bit here. These are the 2 trickiest chords you're going to have in this song, right? Here's what you shouldn't do, in my opinion. Don't jump right into these hard versions. Unless you're really comfortable with this sort of weird chord voicing, I would start with these versions I have on the far left. It's going to sort of get your hand used to certain bits of where the fingers are supposed to go, but in a real training wheels way. Let me show you what I mean here, okay? First up, this transition from E7 to E diminished 7. The simplest way to do it is just to do it in the 7th fret, ring, and pinky fingers on the 3rd and 1st string respectively, okay? I'm just pinching those strings. Then you go down to the 6th fret, same fingers on same strings. Just get used to doing this. Okay, a nice palate cleanser is go to a regular E, and then jump up to the 7th fret, 6th fret, 7th fret, then do a regular E. That's going to sort of give you that practice of moving from one area of the fretboard, open position, to up here, 7th and 6th fret. Okay, I'll put this in a musical context a little bit later, but this is the first version you should get used to, is this most simplified version. Now, once you're familiar with things, and I'm going to show you this in the exercises I have coming up, is you can then do this intermediate version where you're going to do 7, 5, 7. Index finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. That's our E7. And for the E diminished 7, all we're going to do is move those rings and pinkies back to the 6th fret, just like they were in this version over here, right? 6, 5, 6. And back to 7, 5, 7. And then 6, 5, 6. Right? Get used to this. Version 1 and version 2 I show you, we're going to use what I just taught you there. And it's all going to lead up to your fingers kind of being used to going up here so that you can eventually try to do this one, which is the full E7 as Doc Watson's playing it. He's using the open E string also. I'm not going to deal with that in this lesson too much, but this is what you want to do here. But here's the tricky part about these. Notice how your middle and index are on the second and fourth strings, or fourth and second strings respectively. When you go to the diminished, your index has to jump to the fourth string and your middle jumps to the second string. So those fingers are switching strings, which is really tricky at first. But here's what I'll say. To learn these chords, first practice these easier versions. Get used to them in the context of these exercises. But then after that, just grab your guitar a few times a day and do it when you're watching YouTube or TV or something, right? Just get your hands, spend a few minutes just going between these chords, okay? You do it a few times a day, a couple days in a row, and I guarantee it's just gonna get easier and easier and easier. And if you ever wanna play this like Doc Watson, you need to be able to jump from open position up to this chord. Okay, I just did it pretty good there, but I've been practicing this for about a week. Okay, so give yourself time, but here's the cool part. Everything I'm going to show you now does not require you to do this. We can get by on these easier versions. So let's jump into this first exercise and have some fun with it. Okay, so this first one, the main idea here is to get you through the progression, get you through the chords in a way that will let you have fun and sort of evoke, get some of the flavoring of Deep River Blues without doing Doc Watson's fancy full fingerstyle stuff. So the main idea here is for the first two measures, we're going from this E7, from this E7 to the E diminished 7, back to the E7, and then a regular E. Okay, that's the first two measures, and that's probably the trickiest jump you're going to have to do. With the exception of at the very last measure, you have to jump from that same E back up here. But just, this is a relatively straightforward chord to play. It's just two fingers. You're just pinching two strings, right? So here's what it sounds like if you put this whole sequence together. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I also have some separate lessons teaching you the E, A, and B7 chords in the sort of bluesy country context. If you need some help with that, check out my lesson page. The one note I'll say before we move on is for the A. You're going to notice I'm putting my pinky up here. Now this makes it an A7 because this note is G, which is the flat 7 relative to our A root note, right? Now this is something we're going to use in the future version. So if you can, get used to doing this. It's going to sound really good and it's going to really evoke that bluesy vibe that we're after with this song. Okay, so that's the first version. Let's move to version 2 now. So here we go. So a little bit trickier, but the same backbone, the same structure. Okay, a couple things in the first two measures you're going to notice. First up, for the E7, we're going to use this 3-finger version here, right? 7, 5, 7. Then we're going to go down to 6, 5, 6, and then back to basically the E7 that we started with. So LR is left ring, LI is left index, LP is left pinky. Okay? 2 plucks of each. Okay? And here's the first tricky thing we're going to do here is after we do those first plucks, we're going to sort of arpeggiate, do that 7, 5, 7, but we're going to do from thickest to the third string. And then after that third note is played, you're going to take this hand off and move it down to the E major. And while that's happening, I'm just brushing those thinnest 2 strings, and then I do a strum of E. Okay, so the first 2 measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay? Then we move on to the rest. Okay, now I'll play through it again a couple times, but the main thing here is don't let the timing trip you up yet. I have the timing written in below the chords. You can play this slower and loose and free if you want. My main, what I implore and hope and suggest is that you find some kind of groove you can settle into with this. And if you want to slightly go off of, like go against, if you slightly want to change what I have tabbed up, and do something different, especially for those little notes that I have tabbed up between the main strummy chords, you can, right? But let me play it a few more times in this sort of relatively intermediate context, and you can see what I mean here, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you found that helpful. Go back to the previous version if you need to. You can basically use the first 2 measures of this second version. And then use what I have in the first version as far as the chords, if you want something easier, right? But you can bring in the second version when you're ready. Okay, I was a little bit free and loose with the timing right there, but that's going to set us up for perfectly for this next version, this third and final version. This is the trickiest one. It brings in some more fingerstyle, some more sort of syncopated timing, and that one's going to sound like this when you put it all together. Okay, I'm going to keep this chords just doing the 3-finger versions of the chords for the first 2 measures. Notice how those notes in parentheses, you can skip those. Okay, that's basically saying, hey, you can do the 4-finger versions if you want. But if the 4-finger versions of those chords are tricky, just do the 3-finger versions, okay? So then we get this. Okay, now a couple of things I want to call out here. You're going to notice that I have some notes highlighted in yellow. Those represent notes that I'm playing just with my right thumb, as sort of bass notes, right? So the first measure is the same as what we did before. But when we get to the second measure, okay, I'm doing these, the right thumb is on the 3rd string for the first, those are the first 3 notes, first 3 beats of the second measure. And after that 3rd note is played, I'm going to take my left hand off and jump it down to open position. And while that's happening, I'm going to pluck the thinnest 2 strings and then the bass string, and then I do a full E strum, okay? So it's kind of cool how much I'm able to play without this hand even pressing anything down while it's sort of jumping. So here's those first 2 measures again. Okay, now we have the right thumb coming in again for that bass note. Okay, now here on the 3 count of the A measure, we're going to do a pinch between the 5th string and 1st string. And our thumb is going to be pulsing on the quarter notes, right? 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1. So notice how in that 3rd measure, 4th measure, and 5th measure, the thumb is plucking on the 1 count, then it's doing some strums, then it's plucking on the 3 count and the 4 count. So we have some consistency with our bass note on the quarter notes. But then we're going to pinch with our index finger and get those thinnest strings. Okay, so here we go again. Okay, about that A measure, right? I talked about how pinky, like we did in version 1 and version 2, on that 3rd fret of the high E string, right? Then I'm going to sort of use my ring finger. I'm just sort of collapsing it down onto the thinnest string 2nd fret, right? It gives us that little sort of motif of going from 3rd to 2nd to open on that thinnest string, okay? So, and then on the final measure of the first line, that 1st fret on the 5th string, you want to use your left middle finger, because that's the note, the finger we're going to slide up 1 fret to the root note of the B7. Okay, B7 again. Okay, so that's what you're going to use for that 3rd version. And with that, y'all, we have everything that we need to play. Where do I look? To play this simplified version of Deep River Blues. So get the PDF, put it right here. Get the PDF to follow along with this. It has the tabs for each of the 3 versions I just showed you. It actually has another exercise, which I have a separate lesson for on my lesson webpage, which is a strumming exercise to help you get a sense of this bass note with the thumb, a strum with your fingers, but then these little chippy up strums that happen rarely, but you want them to happen along with the groove and with the tempo and with the timing you already have established. So that extra lesson plus some zoomed in playthroughs of each version, it's all over on my website, songnotes.net. And I'm excited to keep practicing this so that I can eventually get to a full version of Deep River Blues. And that's the last thing I'll say is I have a bunch of suggested lessons teaching you Deep River Blues, only the best. I've watched like 7 or 8, and I'll put the best 2 or 3 or 4 on my webpage, and you can use those if you want to learn Doc Watson's version, which is a lot trickier because you have like Travis picking and you have everything I showed you, and it's even more tricky with the timing. But again, what I showed you here will get you in the door and listen to Doc Watson. So thanks to everyone who has been suggesting this. Steve and Jason especially, you guys have been great about encouraging me to get into the Doc Watson river, or whatever you want to call it, on the train. I'm sure there's good metaphors. On board with Doc Watson, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm going to take off now, though. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, bye-bye, my friends. See ya.